There we go. Cue the silly face. We are live. Welcome to yet another bite-sized marketing session with me, Miles Phillips, and the fantastic Justin Moy, who has saved the day. Justin, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Miles, and hello, everyone out there.
Everyone out there in and I can see that we are indeed live on the internet. So as per usual, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll do our very best to answer those. Today's subject is how I got radio stations calling me. But look, Justin's a mortgage expert. So pounce on this now. Take the opportunity to ask him your mortgage questions as well. I know that's a bit cheeky, Justin. I know that's a bit cheeky. So let's dive right into this. The reason I was thanking Justin for jumping in at last minute is we did have David Jenkins set up to talk to you all about telesales. Unfortunately, through no fault of his own, David couldn't make it today. So Justin has jumped into the breach. So thank you very much indeed. It's very, very short notice. So I do appreciate you making the time for us, Justin. But it's really apt because last Thursday,
yeah,
one of those days, Justin got a call from BBC Radio Essex asking him if he would comment on the latest interest rate rise. And I won't steal your thunder, but, you know, when you are, well, I will steal your thunder because when you said, well, when would you like me on? They said, well, in about 10 minutes. So, and I listened to this and I thought, do you know what? Wow. Like I've worked with Justin over the last couple of years and I've known, full disclosure, I've known Justin for 4 and a bit years, something like that.
Something like that.
And I know that in terms of him PRing his company, this is a relatively new thing that he started doing. So I thought it'd be really apt to talk about how he got to the stage where last week a radio station actually rang him and asked him to comment on a particular subject. And what we're going to do is sort of roll that back and understand how in the last 6 to 8 months, really, you've managed to achieve this. But let's tease things. It's very topical. Interest rates. If you've got, and I know, look, I love to talk. I know you love to talk, so I'm going to keep you in check today.
We've only got 40 minutes.
Yeah, if you were to give everybody sort of one little bit of mortgage advice that perhaps they don't know, what would it be, Justin, right now?
Oh, crikey, one piece of advice. I would say for those that already have a mortgage, so for the millions of people that are out there hopefully watching this that are sitting there perhaps a little bit worried about what to do. I think really the biggest piece of advice I could give, the one real big tip I could say to anyone is act early. I think what people perhaps don't realise is that they can work almost up to 6 months ahead of themselves on their new product. Now, for those that are worried about taking, and it feels like, oh, I'm going to be committing to a really high interest rate and, you know, there's a long time between now and say perhaps even November, December. I think what's really important to understand is that you are in a position where you can actually reserve something, say today, subject to your lender. But if interest rates do fall, and we are all waiting for that moment to happen, where interest rates and products get better value, you are normally in a position where you can kind of cancel what you've done and take a cheaper mortgage product if that does exist between now and when your product finishes. So you kind of have your plan A and your plan B. Your plan A is, right, well, look, let me at least get a product because interest rates keep going up. I've got something, and it's hopefully at a reasonable price for today's market. But also, if interest rates do fall between now and then you can take advantage of that fall. But the worst thing is to wait until, say, October, November, you haven't done anything. Suddenly it's automatic panic. You're perhaps not in the right position. Perhaps rates haven't moved as quickly as we thought, and you could be paying a lot more for your mortgage. So that's my tip. Do something about it early.
So do something about it early. Okay, great advice. But that's not why we're here, right? That's not why we're here. I've got to give a shout out today to Harry the Hammerhead Moore. He's watching. I know he's watching. So welcome, Harry. Right. Look, the backstory that I'm going to tee up for you today, I suppose, is that you were incredibly busy about a year or so ago because the housing market was booming, the mortgage market was booming, everyone was very buoyant. Yeah. Then came along a lady called Liz Truss. Then somebody else who is no longer there decided that they would make specific statements, and the House of Cards literally fell down. With let's call it the mortgage crash, this left you in a position where, you weren't as busy. And I'm a great believer, right, in everything happens for a reason. So, although that time was really hard in the moment, I think looking back on it now with you, it allowed you to reflect on your business and to work on your business, because for months before that, you hadn't had that time. So just share with everyone, I suppose, Justin, what you did with your spare time.
That's a good question. Well, as you quite rightly said, Miles, probably for about the last 2 or 3 years, it's been a situation where the market has probably led us rather than us leading the market, or certainly us trying to manage our business. So when the market did make that change, rates had started to increase through the year, gradually, steadily. That was manageable. The forces that be at the end of September, early October, made the market move, and as a result, I think everyone just stood there and just thought, right, I don't know what to do, don't know how to react to this. Have we seen this before? So everything just stopped. It was a great opportunity to start thinking about, right, well, how do we get that message out to people? How do we perhaps help educate them as to what to do? What might be the options? Where's the market starting to make a change? What have we got to react to? So I think at that point, it was like, okay, so how do we get my little voice, albeit it's not that little, but in the context of a mortgage world, how do you get that voice loud out there about the options? What can we do to help? What can we do to support? Lots and lots of people starting to panic and make decisions which perhaps they felt right at the time because of what they could see, but perhaps with those with a few years experience could hopefully kind of handheld them through that process. So we looked at different ways of trying to get that message out there, and I stumbled across a platform called Newspage. Very simply.
I think we have to have full disclosure here. Can you just explain to people what Newspage is? Because there are a number of sort of similar sites out there, right?
Of course. Newspage is one of a number of platforms where us as so-called experts can answer questions and pose some idea of what's going on in our market, in our expertise. So it can be used by journalists who are trying to, I guess, pacify their readers or their audience with information which is appropriate for the time. So in October, November time, a lot of running around about interest rates. Are they going to hit 10, 15% again? Who knows? There was so much going on, and there was a lot of noise, I would say. Not a lot of clarity, but quite a lot of noise. So Newspage gave me an opportunity to start to write articles and to write comments about the market in the position where I could hopefully be able to come across as an expert in my field, and people could read my words, read my reaction, as well as lots of other brokers, and start to understand and feel what's going on in the market and give a bit of insight as to what perhaps is on the horizon.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is a web portal, and we'll talk a little bit more about the detail, and we'll show some of the details. But a lot of these platforms are free, and then you get limited access, and with some of them you can pay to have a premium service, as it were, and we'll talk more about that in depth. But in essence, a journalist that would perhaps be a generalist would be writing a story about something that was topical within the news, but to give it more gravitas, to get experts in the field giving their comments and opinion, they would post the question, I'm guessing, on the platform. you have said that you are an expert in mortgages, interest rates, finance, whatever. You then get notified that there is a journalist looking for comment, and then you don't have to write the article, right? You just give a short opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analysis of it. So we get a limited number of words. So I guess at best it might be a paragraph within a article. But yes, a journalist, whether it's from our industry, so like an internal press, or whether it's external press, so for consumers, would come to the platform, pose a question, pose what they're trying to write an article about, and invite those experts. So for us, obviously the finance experts, to comment. And what they'll then do is they'll sift through those comments. There'll be a means and ways of kind of reviewing and looking at every kind of comment made by whoever on the platform, and then they will build their article, typically to go to press the same day, perhaps the next day. But it's a really good way for someone who perhaps specialises, say, in finance press, but doesn't know the ins and outs of exactly what perhaps we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. A good example would be perhaps where a journalist knows that rates are changing, but as a broker, I know specifically who's changing, at what point, where the rates are going, at what time in the day, who's affected, and the journalist wouldn't know that information. So it's a really good opportunity for the journalist to get our opinion and guidance as to kind of what can we see, and I guess that adds some credence and credibility to that journalist as well. But it's a quick way of getting that information.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, I suppose. It's a really good platform to, I mean, when I was working with you, Justin, we talked about stamping your authority within your sort of genre, right? And there are many ways to get out there how much of an expert you are: social media, websites, blogs, public speaking, networking, all of the above.
Yeah.
But this, I suppose, carries quite a bit of gravitas, I suppose, because let's do the showy offy bit. So you started doing this 6 to 8 months ago. What's now the list of publications that your name has been up in lights?
Well, not only the radio part, which perhaps we'll mention shortly, but we've also been in a number of the kind of mortgage trade magazines. So that's I guess the internal market, those that are affected by us. So that's like Mortgage Strategy.
Boring, Justin. Boring.
Right.
Give me the headline. Come on, give me the glitz and the glamour.
Daily Mail. You're looking at is it iNews? Is it what was the Independent? Financial Times. This Is Money. Yahoo News. There are a number of kind of customer-facing places that I have been as well as. So this is not just about kind of blowing messages within the industry. It goes beyond the industry.
Yeah, getting yourself into the broadsheets, I suppose, is most people's dream, as it were, in terms of exposure. And this allows you to do that because we've sort of put a title up here saying making sort of PR work. I think it's really important to just state that using a PR company is going to be the best way of you getting coverage out there that spotlights your business and gets a wider sort of conversation going, right, against some of your goals. This is about you being a soundbite, if you like, within someone else's work. So it's important to think about this as part of the marketing mix and the overall PRing of your company. But this hasn't cost you very much, Justin.
No, and I think that's some of the beauty of it. I think if you try to do this privately, not only would you not know perhaps where to start, and you'd be very ad hoc with your approach, very kind of unplanned, shall we say. For the actual platform itself, it does have a free option, so you can at least make a start and give it a go. The monthly cost is about £50 a month, but what it allows you to do is to have that access to the people that want to, I guess, take your content and add it to their articles. And it also allows you greater access to more people than I could ever get myself privately trying to do the same job. So I guess you've got to sit there and say, well, it's kind of fulfilling a couple of things. the other thing is that I would say arguably it's probably the best £50 a month I spend on my own marketing. And what I mean is trying to get myself out there into the wider public, which is where some of the benefits around now getting invites directly from the freelancers and the journalists that have been taking my input for the last 6 or 7 months. They're now coming to me directly looking for bigger articles and perhaps a bit more background as to why I've said something, so that they can put a bigger feature together. So that's really positive from my perspective. Yeah.
So Justin, I know that within your football career, you will have been referred to as having legendary status, right? Justin's a goalkeeper. He has got very big mitts, and I think he'll tell you that he had a clean sheet on the weekend. But in terms of the subscription model, so the free to play, that will give you the opportunity to comment on a couple of articles a month. Then you've got a premium version on this particular platform, £49 a month, unlimited amount of comments that you can make, but you can earn legendary status. So talk us through what legendary status is.
I would like to say it's through a consistency of the number of requests that you fulfill as a journalist comes to the platform wanting your comments. I guess as a platform, they want to encourage us to comment as much as possible, because that gives obviously hopefully a higher quality article overall. So by the consistency of the volume, and hopefully because of what I've written as well as, so the quality of what's been written, then Newspage have given me a legendary title. But what that means, apart from
being amazing.
I can't believe you said this. Apart from a certificate, what it means is that whenever I post, because my kind of quality and quantity have already been kind of established, my comments get posted towards the top of the pile.
Okay.
So I guess more importantly, when a journalist comes to the platform and wants comment, there could be 15, 20, perhaps 30 mortgage brokers in this context, all with an opinion. So if you have a paid for subscription and or a legendary status, your comment is not only checked by some very clever people back at Newspage who will actually kind of vet it and check your grammar and perhaps have a slight change of your wording, but they'll pin it to the top of the pile. It's like putting your comment on the top of a pile of paper, so that when the journalist gets it, it's one of the first that they will read.
Okay,
so me, a better chance.
Yeah. So let's say that we were both in the same world and we were both making comment on the same article. Because of your paid for service and with your legendary status, the journalist would see your comments first and mine would be buried down the list, I'm guessing.
It'll be in the pile.
They could still find my comment, so don't feel like you can't get value from the free for service. But how long had you been doing this system before you moved to the paid platform?
It would have been about 3 months.
Oh, okay. So you did the sort of free to play for a couple of months, and then you thought, well, I need to.
Absolutely.
Okay. And in your opinion, should have done it earlier?
Should have done, because actually the ability to comment on almost anything financial and to have a choice is much better than thinking, well, I've only got a couple of credits this month. How can I use them? Which is my best opportunity.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you then start to sort of pick and choose and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, so you literally started back end of last year, posting, commenting. You got yourself onto BBC Radio Essex, In the Times, Sunday Times, to name just a few of the broadsheets. So how did the phone ring? Talk us through what happened last week when the phone rang.
Well, having joined the platform towards the end of last year, I got an immediate call because of the frenzy around rates and this big worry about what was going on. I don't think there was anything else in the news really. So I got invited back end of the last year to go live on the radio and to have some comment about what was going on. And yeah, a little scary. It was live. There was no preparation other than you're going to be talking to someone on the radio about mortgages. So wish you the best of luck, and 3, 2, 1, and you can hear the music. What was great was it was repurposed a few times. So I found my own article kept popping up in the social media for BBC Essex. I think I was even on the 11 o'clock news on the Sunday morning. Someone rang me up and said, "You're still on the news," and it was 4 days on from when I had the interview. But
I think that's an important point. Sorry to butt in there, just. But this isn't just about that one particular article. Not only will your article get picked up by other news stations and other platforms, but there's a couple of very interesting points here. So when there's a hyperlink placed within a digital version of this piece of news, especially if it's on a credible website like The Times, that gives your website a really credible backlink, which we know is all important for SEO. The other thing that's really good about creating this stuff is that you can then repurpose it. It's already done. You can then reshare it on your socials, or take a little clip of it and reshare it, or transcribe it and publish that blog or article. So that sort of £50 a month, if you like, or just over 12 quid a week, couple of pound a day. Wow. I mean, it's real value for money when you think about how many footprints that one thing has.
No, definitely. And I think that's where I look beyond the price of what it costs. It's not only the ability for someone to check my work and to pin it a bit higher, but probably on a typical day, I will be invited to comment on, say, 3 or 4 articles. Sometimes they give you a day. Sometimes there will be a time scale. So if there's something quite important to come to market with, interest rates is always a good one. They're not going to ask you to wait 3 or 4 days for a response. But what happened last Thursday is that at 12 o'clock, the announcement was made that the Bank of England base rate was going to increase. By 12:05, BBC Essex were back in touch directly. He said, "Look, would you mind coming back on the show? We love what you did before. Would you like to come on and have a chat about the rates?" So I said, "Yep, fine, no problem. What, 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon?" And they said, "No, in about 10 minutes. Can you just get yourself ready? And we'll transfer the call in." And again, I was put a little bit on the spot, but a bit like this, if you feel you're an expert and you've got the ability to justify whatever you talk about, and I think these are the bits we'll probably come to in a second, but I think trying to make sure that you communicate clearly, well, try and be positive with the talk, even if it's, look, there's nothing positive about increasing interest rates. What people want to understand is this the top of the rate? Is there a silver lining somewhere that perhaps I can just emphasize and just give someone who's listening at 12 o'clock, who's probably going, "Oh, blimey, my mortgage payment's gone up yet again." If they go, "Oh, yeah, but Justin said it's going to be all right," or,
yeah. But I suppose, and I listened to that particular broadcast, and I think what stood out to me was you talked about, and you haven't got a crystal ball, right? But you did say, if your mortgage is up for renewal, get in early, secure yourself a rate, and then watch the marketplace, because then if it does go up, then you can take that rate you've got. If it goes the other way, then you can look at a different product. So I think it was it was great. What about, I mean, I'm sort of going to answer the question for you, I suppose, but a lot of people watching this will be petrified about going on the radio or going on, and I think that you haven't done it yet, but the next thing is it's local TV, right? So what we as business owners have to think about is that media these days is it's never been so ubiquitous, I suppose. Like they are hungry for content constantly. So by you making yourself, by A, being on a platform like this, but you making yourself available to ITV East Anglia as an example, and just contacting the producers there and saying, I'm a local mortgage expert, you know, if you ever need a comment, then I'm happy to come on. But what are your sort of we'll come on to your top tips in a second, but what would you say to people about, oh shit, the bloody radio station's calling me, like, do I do it? what do I do?
Well, look, I think anyone who runs, you know, so the producers of the show on the radio, if that's the route you wanted to go, will always put you at ease. I think for most subjects, they'll probably do it as a recording, so you can make a slip up, they can edit it. I think, in all fairness, it was live because it was literally massive announcement. You know, it's what the vast majority of the population want to listen about, and they want an immediate reaction. So there was no time to make a recording. But I do know that often, if you say to them, look, I'm a bit nervous, I know you want some comment, they may do a soundbite or two. So it may be a little bit like, I guess, a verbal version of a paragraph in an article, or they'll just record it. So, you know, they know there are not many people, I guess, out there that are comfortable with that medium. They'll do their best to look after it.
On my screen, I've lost your screen share, so maybe you can just I'll talk over while you just get that back up for me, and we can go through the platform to show people. But what I would say, my experience with local TV and radio is that the producers, they want you to feel as comfortable as possible, and they don't want a cock up on their show, right? So they're not going to ask you random questions out of the blue. You are going to have a conversation beforehand. In my opinion, I think make some notes. Make sure that if you're an expert in your field, then you know you're going to have all the information there. But maybe make a couple of little notes about the point that you want to get across, or maybe the top 3 points that you want to get across. And my last tip is less is more. Like, you know, you don't have to babble on, like make your 3 points, and when they come back at you and ask you for more, make those 3 points again, right? You know, sort of like reinforce it rather than sort of waffling on. Right, just so we got a little screen share going on now, just to show people the platform, because I think it's quite interesting. Now, what we're looking at here is your profile for EHF Mortgages on the news page site, correct?
Correct. So this is the page that not only would I log into so that I can respond to any requests, but this is also what the journalists will see, or a version of this. So they will see my comment and they can click through and they'll see this page. So the top bit, you've kind of down the kind of middle left side, you've got some headshots, you've got some logos, because you do get your photos and your logos kind of featured. There has been a couple recently where my picture has been the lead photo. So when you're looking on LinkedIn and you suddenly find yourself staring at yourself, there's nothing kind of quite worse than that. You know, I definitely have a face for radio, but it's sometimes it's a little scary seeing it. But that it just allows a journalist to go and go, great, look, let me just capture a couple of bits. I've got some pictures, I've got some artwork that I can use. Gives them a little bit of an idea where I am. So it's got kind of like Chelmsford, obviously on the more to the right hand side, a little bit about my business. In all fairness, I could put some more on there, but it's got my website, it's got some of my social media. I think more importantly, this bit down here, if the mouse is working, the expertise, and you can add anything down to your expertise. So if I said, look, my expertise is marketing, then suddenly, I don't know if you can see that, but suddenly there's lots of different marketing. I'm talking as a mortgage broker, what does this provide for me? Look, let's make it really easy. This is not a mortgage-specific platform, but this is about almost anything that anyone has got a specialism in, because it's not just mortgage journalists that use it. It's journalists for all sorts of businesses. So if you've got a particular specialism or a few that are all kind of very similar, so you can see there, I've got mortgages, property, house prices, housing market, their specialisms. So when those requests come through from the journalists or the stories are put together, they will flag what these are on their side, and then it will match up for me. So it's very easy to then get a quick email telling me that there's something to have a look at.
So if I was a journalist and I wanted to sort of verify you, this is the page that I would come to, yeah?
Correct. And often this is the page actually used for the backlinks from the article. So sometimes I'll have my name and then it'll be Managing Director from EHF Mortgages, and the link might either go to my website or it might go to my news page. Okay. So either way, you get a thing.
So I'm going to prompt you now because I know that underneath that sort of blurb are all the articles that you featured in, or all the articles that you have tried to get featured in?
These are all my featured ones. So this is where I've been mentioned in an article. So, for example, if I was to click on this one here, this is only from literally this morning. So Nationwide brought out a brand new green mortgage product. And what this will do, if the broadband works, there we go. It takes you through to an article. So it's about something that I wrote yesterday. And if I just roll down the article, there you go. That's me there. And that's that bit I've just highlighted is literally word for word the snippet or the comment that I made. Now, it's the Mortgage Finance Gazette. I don't expect many people on here to read this on a regular basis.
Dizzy heights, Justin.
Well, possibly. Dizzy's a strong word.
No, but do you know what? I have this conversation with my clients on a regular basis because some of them just think quite insular, and it's like, oh well, what good is an article in Mortgage Weekly going to do? And my answer is probably nothing, right? But what does have an effect, if you like, is that each article would, if you've got an empty glass of water, each article is a big drop of water. The more articles you do, the more drops you get in your glass, and eventually your glass is full. So, it's cumulative in terms of reputation, authority, and let's don't forget now that you are able to reference the fact that you've been featured in this, and maybe your competitors haven't.
Well, what was really interesting was that the comments that I made were actually for that particular journalist. So if you're looking on the screen, you can see that there's two articles. So that's the one that I actually answered. The article you've just seen, I didn't know I was actually featured. So when I get a daily Google News in my inbox every morning that's got anything to do with mortgages, I found it really funny that about 7th or 8th article down was my name and this article. So it does get around. But yes, look, I've been featured in over 100 different articles, and if I keep pressing the load more buttons,
100 articles since when?
Since November.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty good going, Just. Because a lot of people may think now, but Justin must spend all day, right, making comments. Talk us through like your little routine. How do you go about commenting on these things?
Sure. So kind of first thing in the morning, come in, put the kettle on, make a cup of coffee as I'm trying to get my kind of mortgage head on, a bit like Wurzel would have done back in the day. I probably just sit here and just have a look at the alerts. So this is what you can see here are the outstanding mortgage-related or property-related alerts that journalists are looking for a response on. So, so for example, this is a good one. I've made a comment already on this one, but we've got a journalist, Mortgage Solutions, talking a bit about mortgage lenders pulling rates very quickly. And is that a problem to me as a broker? And I've gone back and said, look, it is a problem, and given some views on it. And look, there are some other people, Riz, that I know, Scott. Look, there's my comment there.
Okay,
that's my little legend status kicking in there. So there's 4 of us that have already made a comment. Now, as you alluded earlier, I haven't just written 105 kind of article comments. I've probably written double that. not every article is always going to ever take my words. It depends, I guess, perhaps on the style of the journalist. Perhaps they're looking for something in particular. I guess I think we'll talk about the tips in a second, but it's a little bit about my writing style may not fit with the journalist's writing style. In other ones, it will be an absolute match. So, like in the article I've just shown, I am the only person that's actually referenced in it. But from the same pool of people yesterday, there were about 4 or 5 of those articles on different publications across the industry, and we've all said something different, subject to the journalist. But that's my thing. So I would say I probably take about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes a day looking at those alerts. If something urgent comes in during the day, absolutely. But most of them give me some time. So look, I've got a couple of hours on these if I haven't already done something. But that allows me time just to have a think about things. Have a little, think about, all right, is that something I want to comment on? What would I say? Is it something that's a problem for me or not? Or, for some of them, I might just ignore them because actually, you know what? I'm not a specialist perhaps in that thing. So like Japanese knotweed, I may not mention that one. It's not what I deal with, but it is a problem in our industry. So,
right.
So I can pick.
We're not going to get bogged down on Japanese knotweed.
No, please don't.
I think that's great. It's going to lead us on nicely to your top 3 tips, I suppose. Just so to sort of wrap us up, to somebody listening to this that's thinking, well, this is a good opportunity for me to get myself out there, and maybe in a few months' time I'll have radio stations calling me for comment. What would be your top 3 tips?
Well, look, I think even before the tips, get yourself registered on one of these types of platforms, just so you get a feel for kind of the press and what they're looking at. But so I think that's the absolute first thing to do. My first tip would be to read what other people are actually writing. So I know the problem most of us have, probably most mornings for me, is that you see a heading, you think, oh yeah, I really want to say something, but I'm not sure what to say. Or is what I'm going to say like an absolute, the absolute opposite to what everyone else is talking about? So you're never sure. So with all these platforms, you can kind of go in and read everyone else's comments. You've just seen there that you can see my comment and 3 or 4 other people's. So you can actually read them and then think, yeah, I know where people are going with this. I understand the point a bit better. And then you can go in and you can start to put something together. So even if you have that dry moment, there's always a little bit of inspiration there.
Okay. What about number 2?
Yeah, second point is an interesting one. Make sure you install the Grammarly plugin. So for most of us, I guess we probably come across Chrome, or I'm not sure if Safari's got it, but download the Grammarly free plugin.
Safari definitely has it. Yeah. I'm afflicted with my grammar. But yeah.
But this is a web-based platform. So what it will do is, as you're typing, it will start to give you some suggestions. And honestly, sometimes it's very easy for us to write what we say and how we say it. And we sometimes just have to remember that actually it will read differently. So Grammarly is really, really good at correcting my grammar for how things look rather than how they sound. So yeah, absolutely. Get that installed and follow what it's telling you. It's typically right.
I'm going to jump in now and say that actually AI is a tool that some of us should use a little bit more. I know maybe we're a little bit afraid of it, but I do use it in my everyday now, and it's mainly a space for checking and improving, and to take what you've written, pop it into AI. You can actually ask the AI to maybe improve it, make it more impactful, get a different point across, whatever it may be. So, use the tools, I suppose, is what you're saying out there, right?
Definitely. There's plenty of help, and it doesn't cost you anything. Some of these things, definitely.
What's the third tip?
I think the third one is really just if this is something you want to do on a regular basis, and I would implore you to at least try, is to try and find your writing style. I guess what I mean by look, that's quite broad. What I mean by that is think about perhaps you, your industry, and how you want to put the point across. So, we all watch the news. I guess most of us watch the news most days, and we see how extreme some of the news can be. So if inflation's a little bit higher than it should be, it's phenomenally higher than expected.
Yeah.
And we all hang on these big long kind of words of either doom and gloom or the other end of the spectrum. All I would say for my industry and for my brand, I guess, is trying to be kind of personal, professional, and considered, and 30 odd years in this industry. My writing style might be a little bit more kind of middle of the road. I will look for positiveness, even if a lender has put something out there that perhaps isn't the right thing, but they're trying something. I'd look to support them, but I wouldn't go in there slagging them off politely. That might be more sensationalism, and that might actually get you some extra inches of press space because you've got this very exaggerated opinion. But in my book, all that happens then is that if, as a mortgage broker, let's say I had some cursory words about one of my lenders, and I put that in the press, and everyone could read that, and then a week later, I need that lender to help me on a case. If I was that lender, I'd be putting my fingers up somewhere politely and saying, "Hold on a minute, you said last week we were rubbish. Now you want help." So
I think
there are brokers that have got those opinions, and perhaps they can keep them. But that also means that, look, I'm not always going to be featured in every article. But for the articles I'm not featured in, by writing that little kind of paragraph or a few lines, it's good practice. And at the end of the day,
it aligns with you, doesn't it, Justin? And this is what, again, I talk with my customers about, thinking of your brand and what you stand for. We talk about tone of voice, but always the values of what you stand for are right at the very core of all of your communication. So, think about the representation. And you may be a controversial figure, right? You may be a disruptor. You may be a Katie, I nearly swore there. Katie Hopkins, right? Who is definitely a Marmite figure. But, that's her thing. That's her thing, right? And good luck to the woman. But I would say that as a mortgage advisor, if you like, it's quite a serious thing. People are asking, trusting you with probably their biggest purchase, right? So be true to your values. Okay. Great tips. So just to review those, it was read what others are commenting, read up on articles, make sure that you're adding value, use technology to help. So, Grammarly, AI, to make sure that what you are writing is in the style that you want it to be and that you haven't got any typos in there. And then I think you were sort of saying, not adjust your style, but have a style. Think about the style that you want to write in and that it reflects who you are as a business, because obviously that will come across. Just, if you don't mind me asking, how much business do you think you've got as a direct result? I mean, it's always hard to know whether these things are cumulative, but can you attribute any business to what you've been doing?
So far, I know 100% there's about £7,500 worth of business that I've got as a direct result of either articles I've written or the radio shows that I've been on. And those would have all come off the back of the news page work.
Wow.
What I can't measure, and I guess is something to consider, is that when you have this kind of back catalogue of articles that you've featured in, and I guess it's building your kind of gravitas, it's building your profile, how many of my existing customers have seen them, heard me in the past talk about these things? Now they see it in the press or heard it on the radio. I know the numerous conversations I've had where it's like, "Oh, I saw your comment in the paper the other day, Justin. No, it's great. Now can we do the mortgage we said?" So I think for anyone that's difficult to quantify, but if you can use it as a secondary means of building your profile, adding a little bit to perhaps the rapport that you have with clients.
It's retention, isn't it? It's part of your customer retention. It's stopping them, if you like, thinking, oh, well, I'm going to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
It's all about that sort of kudos. Well, I mean, and as you said, you've got legendary status.
Justin, must have been good for a while.
I'm checking the questions. If you do have any questions for Justin, either on, how he got radio stations calling him, or if they're mortgage related, pop them in the chat now and he'll be able to answer them live on air. If you're watching this on catch up, which I know hundreds of you do, please take Justin's email off the screen. We had this discussion. That is Justin @ that isn't Ambus @ it's just a very funky font. We're just, that's how we roll.
You're a funky kind of guy.
We are funky. I'm a funky guy. But look, it's I think it's fascinating. I think that PR is a very important part of your wider marketing strategy, and one that I think is left to last a lot, and can be quite expensive for. Some of my PR friends will kill me for this, but for tomorrow's chip paper, as I think it's been referred to in the past. But this seems to be working for you, Justin. It takes up a small amount of your time, a small amount of your marketing budget, and you were talking about 6, 7, 8 grand's worth of business. That's not the mortgages that have been placed. That's the commission that you've got through that, right? So it's actually been a lot of business that's been generated. So that's fantastic. What we got here? What's your favorite medium to share your ideas? From Chris Sylvester.
Oh, favorite way to share ideas? Crikey. I tend to find probably more around social media. So again, it just depends on where I'm finding people. So be it LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, they're probably my main 3 kind of areas.
You enjoy a bit of Twitter, don't you?
I like a bit of social media because it's quite quick. You get a response. Chris has just come back and said print radio. I think I enjoy the radio because it's quite spontaneous. Like I said, the social media, you're getting that response back, be it a presenter, be it whoever's running the talk show and getting questions like this. I think with the print, I like the longevity. So if you kind of Google my name under Google News, you'll see there's kind of 250 mentions of me and my business, and that goes back to November. So there's an element of kind of pride. Well, I think you have to go back and just check what did I say back then as it comes to kind of fruition. I think in the main, most of my points have actually come right, and I think one of the things I'd always say to anyone, certainly in a regulated world like ours, is make sure that anything you comment on, be it on radio or in the press, you can back up. So, I could go out there and say, folks, interest rates will be 1% by December, happy Christmas to everyone. And it'd be like, oh, look, this mortgage broker said all this fantastic news. And suddenly you get to November and it's like still 5%. And it's like, well, what idiot said that back in May? Yeah. So I think you just got to be really careful whatever we're at, in particular, some of our types of market, to not say anything that you couldn't substantiate. But I think we want to try and find some positives with, even in a relatively negative message, try and find the positives and give people some hope. But,
the print stuff is would refer to it as like evergreen, if that makes sense. It does hang around, and especially now because print is now digital. That's the thing. We think about the fact that you featured in the FT, the physical paper. Well, that was chip paper the following day, but the article on the FT website is going to be there forever.
Still there.
Right?
Still there.
And the thing is, Jess, you mentioned that you Googled your name, which I know you do on a regular basis because you're that vain and you're.
I need to make sure I'm still alive.
So if you do tap into Google legend Justin Moy and the list comes up, the thing is that a potential customer is not going to look at all of those articles. They will just see the snapshot that there's 300 articles by Justin Moy. This guy must know what he's talking about. So. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for the questions there, Chris. I hope that helped. What a fantastic thing to do, Justin, to jump in. I really appreciate this. Please keep up your good work with your PR, and I look forward to seeing you next on local TV. That's going to be one not to be missed. And what I would say to all my listeners now is that Justin is a fully independent mortgage advisor. So he doesn't work for a larger network. He's not restricted on the products or services that he's able to offer you. And through personal experience, I know that he goes the extra mile. So I would urge you, if you do have a mortgage and it is coming up for renewal, even if it's not, right? Justin's a great guy. He's always got time for you. Just get in touch. So there you are, Justin. Thank you very much indeed, sir. You are an absolute gentleman. I owe you a big favor there. Chris is saying that he thought it was a great show. Wow. Thank you, Chris. That's high praise indeed. As you know, we go live every single Tuesday at 12:30. And we always look forward to seeing you. We'll get you back on again soon, Justin, I'm sure. But until next time, ta-ta for now.
Cheers.